Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. I'm going to give a little water.
The birth of Lord Krishna, Chapter 3. In the Bhagavad Gita, the Lord says that his appearance, birth, and activities are all transcendental, and that one who understands them factually becomes immediately eligible to be transferred to the spiritual world. The Lord's appearance or birth is not like that of an ordinary man, who is forced to accept a material body according to his past deeds. The Lord's appearance is explained in the second chapter. He appears out of his own sweet pleasure. When the time was mature for the appearance of the Lord, the constellations became very auspicious. The astrological influence of the star known as Rohini was predominant. This star is considered to be very auspicious and is under the direct supervision of Brahma. According to the astrological conclusion, besides the proper situation of the stars, there are auspicious and inauspicious moments due to the different situations of the different planetary systems. At the time of Krishna's birth, the planetary systems were automatically adjusted so that everything became auspicious. At that time, in all directions, east, west, south, north, everywhere, there was an atmosphere of peace and prosperity. There were auspicious stars visible in the sky, and on the surface in all towns and villages and pasturing grounds, and within the minds of everyone there were signs of good fortune. The rivers were flowing full of waters, and lakes were beautifully decorated with lotus flowers. The forests were full with beautiful birds and peacocks. All the birds within the forests began to sing with sweet voices, and the peacocks began to dance along with their consorts. The wind blew very pleasantly, carrying the aroma of different flowers, and the sensation of bodily touch was very pleasing. At home, the Brahmanas, who were accustomed to offering sacrifices in the fire, found their homes very pleasant for offerings. Due to disturbances created by the demoniac kings, the sacrificial fire had been almost stopped in the houses of the Brahmanas, but now they could find the opportunity to start the fire peacefully. Being forbidden to offer sacrifices, the Brahmanas had been very much distressed in mind, intelligence, and activities. But just on the point of Krishna's appearance, automatically their minds became full of joy because they could hear transcendental vibrations in the sky proclaiming the appearance of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The denizens of the Gandharva and Kinara planets began to sing, and the denizens of Siddhaloka and the planets of the Charanas began to offer prayers in the service of the Personality of Godhead. In the heavenly planets, the angels and their wives, along with the Vidyadharas and their wives, began to dance. The great sages and the demigods, being pleased, began to shower flowers. At the seashore, there was the sound of mild waves, and above the sea, there were clouds in the sky which began to thunder very pleasingly. When things were adjusted like this, Lord Vishnu, who is residing within the heart of every living entity, appeared in the darkness of night as the Supreme Personality of Godhead before Devaki, who appeared as one of the demigoddesses. The appearance of Lord Vishnu at that time could be compared to the rising of the full moon over the eastern horizon. The objection may be raised that since Lord Krishna appeared on the 8th day of the waning moon, there could be no rising of the full moon. In answer to this, it may be said that Lord Krishna appeared in the dynasty which is in the hierarchy of the moon. Therefore, although the moon was incomplete on that night, because of the Lord's appearance in the dynasty wherein the moon is himself the original person, the moon was in an overjoyous condition, so by the grace of Krishna, he could appear just like a full moon. In an astronomical treatise by the name Kamanikya, the constellations at the time of the appearance of Lord Krishna are very nicely described. It is confirmed that the child born at that auspicious moment was the Supreme Brahman, or the Absolute Truth. Vasudev saw that wonderful child born as a baby with 4 hands, holding conch shell, club, disc, and lotus flower, decorated with the mark of Srivatsa, wearing the jeweled necklace of Kaustuba stone, dressed in yellow silk, appearing dazzling like a bright blackish cloud, wearing a helmet bedecked with the Vaidurya stone, valuable bracelets, earrings, and similar other ornaments all over his body, and beautified by an abundance of hair on his head. Due to the extraordinary features of the child, Vasudeva was struck with wonder. How could a newly born child be so decorated? Vasudeva could therefore understand that Lord Krishna had now appeared, and he became overpowered by the occasion. Vasudeva very humbly wondered that although he was an ordinary living entity conditioned by material nature and was externally imprisoned by Kamsa, the all-pervading personality of Godhead, Vishnu or Krishna, was appearing as a child in his home, exactly in his original position. No earthly child is born with 4 hands, decorated with ornaments and nice clothing, fully equipped with all the signs of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Over and over again, Vasudeva glanced at his child, and he considered how to celebrate this auspicious moment. Generally, when a male child is born, he thought, people observe the occasion with jubilant celebrations. And in my home, although I am imprisoned, the Supreme Personality of Godhead has taken birth. How many millions and millions of times should I be prepared to observe this auspicious ceremony? When Vasudeva, who is also called an Anakadundubi, was looking at his newborn baby, he was so happy that he wanted to give many thousands of cows in charity to the Brahmanas. According to the Vedic system, whenever there is an auspicious ceremony in the Kshatriya king's palace, out of joy the king gives many things in charity. Cows decorated with golden ornaments are delivered to the Brahmanas and sages. Vasudeva wanted to perform a charitable ceremony to celebrate Krishna's appearance, but because he was shackled within the walls of Kamsa's prison, this was not possible. Instead, within his mind, he gave thousands of cows to the Brahmanas. When Vasudeva was convinced that the newborn child was the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself, he bowed down with folded hands and began to offer him prayers. At that time, Vasudeva was in the transcendental position, and he became completely free from all fear of Kamsa. The newborn baby was also flashing his effulgence within the room in which he appeared. Vasudeva then began to offer his prayers. My dear Lord, I can understand who you are. You are the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the super soul of all living entities, and the absolute truth. You have appeared in your own eternal form, which is directly perceived by us. I understand that because I am afraid of Kamsa, you have appeared just to deliver me from that fear. You do not belong to this material world. You are the same person who brings about the cosmic manifestation simply by glancing over material nature. One may argue that the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who creates the whole cosmic manifestation simply by his glance, cannot come within the womb of Devaki, the wife of Vasudeva. To eradicate this argument, Vasudeva said, My dear Lord, it is not a very wonderful thing that you have appeared within the womb of Devaki, because the creation was also made in that way. You were lying in the causal ocean as Mahavishnu, and by your breathing process, innumerable universes came into existence. Then you entered into each of the universes as Garbhodakshaya Vishnu. Then again you expanded yourself as Shirodakshaya Vishnu and entered into the hearts of all living entities, and even within the atoms. Therefore, your entrance into the womb of Devaki is understandable in the same way. You appear to have entered, but you are simultaneously all-pervading. We can understand your entrance and non-entrance from material examples. The total material energy remains intact even after being divided into 16 elements. The material body is nothing but the combination of the 5 gross elements, namely earth, water, fire, air, and ether. Whenever there is a material body, it appears that such elements are newly created, but actually the elements are always existing outside of the body. Similarly, although you have appeared as a child in the womb of Devaki, you are also existing outside. You are always in your abode, but still you can simultaneously expand yourself into millions of forms. One has to understand your appearance with great intelligence because the material energy is also emanating from you. You are the original source of the material energy, just as the sun is the source of the sunshine. The sunshine cannot cover the sun globe, nor can the material energy, being an emanation from you, cover you. You appear to be in the 3 modes of material energy, but actually the 3 modes of material energy cannot cover you. This is understood by the highly intellectual philosophers. In other words, although you appear to be within the material energy, you are never covered by it. We hear from the Vedic version that the Supreme Brahman exhibits his effulgence and therefore everything becomes illuminated. We can understand from the Brahma Samhita that the Brahma Jyotir, or the Brahman effulgence, emanates from the body of the Supreme Lord. And from the Brahman effulgence, all creation takes place. It is also stated in the Bhagavad Gita that the Lord is the support of the Brahman effulgence. Therefore, originally, he is the root cause of everything. But persons who are less intelligent think that when the Supreme Personality of Godhead comes within this material world, he accepts the material qualities. Such conclusions are not very mature, but are made by the less intelligent. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is directly and indirectly existing everywhere. He is outside this material creation, and he is also within it. He is within this material creation not only as Garbhodakshaya Vishnu, he is also within the atom. The existence of the atom is due to his presence. Nothing can be separated from his existence. In the Vedic injunctions, we find that the Supreme Soul, or the root cause of everything, has to be searched out because nothing exists independently of the Supreme Soul. Therefore, the material manifestation is also a transformation of his potency. Both inert matter and the living force, the soul, are emanations from him. Only the foolish conclude that when the Supreme Lord appears, he accepts the conditions of matter. Even if he appears to have accepted a material body, he is still not subjected to any material condition. Krishna has therefore appeared and defeated all imperfect conclusions about the appearance and disappearance of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. My Lord, your appearance, existence, and disappearance are beyond the influence of the material qualities. Because your Lordship is the Supreme Brahman and the controller of everything, there is nothing inconceivable or contradictory in you. As you have said, material nature works under your superintendence, just like a government officer working under the orders of the chief executive. The influence of subordinate activities cannot affect you. Since you are the Supreme Brahman, everything is existing within you. And since all the activities of material nature are controlled by your Lordship, none of these activities affect you. You are called Suklam. Suklam, or whiteness, is the symbolic representation of the absolute truth because it is unaffected by the material qualities. Lord Brahma is called Rakta, or red, because Brahma represents the quality of passion for creation. Darkness is entrusted to Lord Shiva because he annihilates the cosmos. The creation, annihilation, and maintenance of this cosmic manifestation are conducted by your potencies, yet you are always unaffected by those qualities. As confirmed in the Vedas, Harir Hir Nirguna Sakshat. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is always free from all material qualities. It is also said that the qualities of passion and ignorance are non-existent in the person of the Supreme Lord. My Lord, you are the Supreme Controller, the Personality of Godhead, the Supreme Great, maintaining the order of this cosmic manifestation. Yet in spite of your being the Supreme Controller, you have so kindly appeared in my home. The purpose of your appearance is to kill the followers of the demoniac rulers of the world, who are in the dress of royal princes but are actually demons. I am sure that you will kill all of them and their followers and soldiers. I understand that you have appeared in order to kill the uncivilized Kamsa and his followers. But knowing that you were to appear in order to kill him and his followers, he has already killed so many of your predecessors, your elder brothers. Now he is simply awaiting the news of your birth. As soon as he hears about it, he will immediately appear with all kinds of weapons to kill you.
Dasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurn Militam Jaina Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Sthapitam Jaina Putale Swayam Rupakada Mahyam Dadhati Shapadantikam Vandehang Shri Guru Shri Jatapadakamadam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Shagrajatam Sahagana Raganathan Vitam Stam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savatutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Shahagana Lalita Sri Vishakhan Vitamscha E Krishna Karuna Sindho Dina Bandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kamshana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hori Priye Vanshako Patarubhyascha Kripa Sindhobhye Vacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. The pastimes narrated in this book are full of siddhantas, philosophical understandings and conclusions. As the narrative goes along, we find these significant prayers praising the Lord in terms of factual understanding. Vasudeva says, it's not so wonderful that you've appeared in the womb of Devaki. You appear within the atom, you appear beyond the cosmic manifestation. You appear within everything, and yet you're simultaneously all-pervading. So then everything is emanating from you, but nothing can cover you, just as the clouds and so on produced from the sun can't cover the sun. So the three modes of nature can't cover the Lord, even if he appears within the material energy. The Lord is the root cause of everything. He's the basis of the impersonal Brahmajyoti. Antar Bahira Vastitam. He's Alaksha Sarvabhutanam, unseen by everyone, and yet he's within everything and beyond everything. Everything is working under the supervision of Krishna. He's in charge, or he's in control of the material qualities, and yet the material qualities can't affect him. And still, after offering all these prayers, Kamsa wants to kill you. The whole cosmic manifestation is working under your control, but Kamsa is going to come with his soldiers to kill you. Any questions so far? Comments? Okay.
After this prayer of Vasudeva...
Well, first of all, Vasudeva. There's Vasudeva and there's Vasudeva. Vasudeva is Krishna's father, and the son of Vasudeva is Vasudeva.
After this prayer of Vasudeva...
Vasudeva.
Yeah. Devaki, the mother of Krishna, offered her prayers. She was very frightened because of her brother's atrocities. Devaki said, "My dear Lord, your eternal forms like Narayan, Lord Rama, Hayashirsha, Varaha, Nrsimha, Vamana, Baladev, and millions of similar incarnations emanating from Vishnu are described in the Vedic literature as original. You are original because all your forms as incarnations are outside of this material creation. Your form was existing before this cosmic manifestation was created. Your forms are eternal and all-pervading. They are self-effulgent, changeless, and uncontaminated by the material qualities. Such eternal forms are ever cognizant and full of bliss. They are situated in transcendental goodness and are always engaged in different pastimes. You are not limited to a particular form only. All such transcendental, eternal forms are self-sufficient. I can understand that you are the Supreme Lord Vishnu. After many millions of years, when Lord Brahma comes to the end of his life, the annihilation of the cosmic manifestation takes place. At that time, the 5 elements, namely earth, water, fire, air, and ether, enter into the Mahatattva. The Mahatattva then enters, by the force of time, into the non-manifested total material energy. The total material energy enters into the energetic pradhana, and the pradhana enters into you. Therefore, after the annihilation of the whole cosmic manifestation, you alone remain with your transcendental name, form, qualities, and paraphernalia. My Lord, I offer my respectful obeisances unto you, because you are the director of the unmanifested total energy and the ultimate reservoir of the material nature. My Lord, the whole cosmic manifestation is under the influence of time, beginning from the moment up to the duration of the year. All act under your direction. You are the original director of everything and the reservoir of all potent energies. All the conditioned souls are continually fleeing from one body to another and one planet to another, yet they do not get free from the onslaught of birth and death. But when one of these fearful living entities comes under the shelter of your lotus feet, he can lie down without anxiety of being attacked by formidable death. The statement by Devaki is confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita by the Lord himself. There the Lord says that even after traveling all over the universe, from Brahma Loka to Patala Loka, one cannot escape the attack of birth, death, disease, and old age. But one who enters the kingdom of God, the Lord says, is never again obliged to come to the material world. Therefore, my Lord, I request you to save me from the cruel hands of Kamsa, the son of Ugrasena. I am praying to your Lordship to please rescue me from this fearful condition, because you are always ready to give protection to your servitors. The Lord has confirmed the statement in the Bhagavad Gita by assuring Arjuna, you may declare to the world, my devotee shall never be vanquished. While thus praying to the Lord for rescue, Mother Devaki nonetheless expressed her motherly affection. I understand that this transcendental form is generally perceived in meditation by the great sages, but I am still afraid because as soon as Kamsa understands that you have appeared, he might harm you. So I request that for the time being you become invisible to our material eyes. In other words, she requested the Lord to assume the form of an ordinary child. My only cause of fear from my brother Kamsa is due to your appearance. My Lord Madhusudana, Kamsa may not know that you are already born. Therefore, I request you to conceal this 4-armed form of your Lordship, which holds the 4 symbols of Vishnu, namely the conch shell, the disc, the club, and the lotus flower. My dear Lord, at the end of the annihilation of the cosmic manifestation, you put the whole universe within your abdomen. Still, by your unalloyed mercy, you have appeared in my womb. I am surprised that you imitate the activities of ordinary human beings just to please your devotee. On hearing the prayers of Devaki, the Lord replied, my dear mother, in the millennium of Swayambhuva Manu, my father, Vasudev, was living as one of the Prajapatis. His name at that time was Sutapa, and you were his wife named Prishni. At that time, when Lord Brahma was desiring to increase the population, he requested you to generate offspring. You controlled your senses and performed severe austerities. By practicing the breathing exercises of the yoga system, both you and your husband could tolerate all the influences of the material laws, the rainy season, the onslaught of the wind, and the scorching heat of the sunshine. You also executed all religious principles. In this way, you were able to cleanse your heart and control the influences of the material laws. In executing your austerity, you used to eat only the leaves of the trees which fell to the ground. Then with a steady mind and controlled sex drive, you worshipped me, desiring some wonderful benediction from me. Both of you practiced severe austerities for 12,000 years by the calculation of the demigods. During that time, your mind was always absorbed in me. When you were executing devotional service and always thinking of me within your heart, I was very much pleased with you. O sinless mother, your heart is therefore always pure. At that time also, I appeared before you in this form just to fulfill your desire, and I asked you to ask whatever you desired. At that time, you wished to have me born as your son. Although you saw me personally, instead of asking for your complete liberation from material bondage, under the influence of my energy, you asked me to become your son. In other words, to appear in the material world, the Lord selected his mother and father, namely Prishni and Sutapa, respectively. Whenever the Lord comes as a human being, he must have a mother and a father. So he selected Prishni and Sutapa perpetually as his mother and father. And on account of this, neither Prishni nor Sutapa could ask the Lord for liberation. Liberation is not so important as the transcendental loving service of the Lord. The Lord could have awarded Prishni and Sutapa immediate liberation, but he preferred to keep them within this material world for his different appearances, as will be explained in the following verses. On receiving the benediction from the Lord to become his father and mother, Prishni and Sutapa retired from the activities of austerity and lived as husband and wife in order to beget a child who was the Supreme Lord himself. In due course of time, Prishni became pregnant and gave birth to the child. The Lord spoke to Devaki and Vasudev. At that time, my name was Prishni Garbha. In the next millennium, you took birth as Aditi and Kasyapa, and I became your child of the name Upendra. At that time, my form was just like a dwarf, and for this reason, I was known as Vamanadev. I gave you the benediction that I would take birth as your son 3 times. The first time I was known as Prishni Garbha, born of Prishni and Sutapa. In the next birth, I was Upendra, born of Aditi and Kasyapa. And now for the 3rd time, I am born as Krishna from you, Devaki and Vasudev. I have appeared in this Vishnu form just to convince you that I am the same Supreme Personality of Godhead again taken birth. I could have appeared just like an ordinary child, but in that way, you would not have believed that the Supreme Personality of Godhead had taken birth in your womb. My dear father and mother, you have therefore raised me many times as your child, with great affection and love, and I am therefore very much pleased and obliged to you. And I assure you that this time you shall go back home, back to Godhead, on account of your perfection in your mission. I know you are very concerned about me and afraid of Kamsa. Therefore, I order you to take me immediately to Gokul and exchange me for the daughter who has just been born to Yashoda. Having spoken thus to his father and mother, the Lord turned himself into an ordinary child in their presence and remained silent. Being ordered by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vasudev prepared to take his son from the delivery room, and exactly at that time, a daughter was born to Nanda and Yashoda. She was Yogamaya, the internal potency of the Lord. By the influence of this internal potency, Yogamaya, all the residents of Kamsa's palace, especially the doorkeepers, were overwhelmed with deep sleep, and all the palace doors opened, although they were barred and slackened with iron chains. The night was very dark, but as soon as Vasudev took Krishna on his lap and went out, he could see everything just as in the sunlight. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, it is said that Krishna is just like sunlight, and that wherever there is Krishna, the illusory energy, which is compared to darkness, cannot remain. When Vasudeva was carrying Krishna, the darkness of the night disappeared. All the prison doors automatically opened. At the same time, there was thunder in the sky and severe rainfall. When Vasudeva was carrying his son Krishna in the falling rain, Lord Shesha, in the shape of a serpent, spread his hood over the head of Vasudeva so that he would not be hampered by the rainfall. Vasudeva came onto the bank of the Yamuna and saw that the water of the Yamuna was roaring with waves and that the whole span was full of foam. Still, in that furious feature, the river gave passage to Vasudev to cross, just as the great Indian Ocean gave a path to Lord Rama when he was bridging over the gulf. In this way, Vasudev crossed the river Yamuna. On the other side, he went to the place of Nanda Maharaj, situated in Gokul, where he saw that all the cowherd men were fast asleep. He took the opportunity to silently enter the house of Yashoda, and without difficulty, he exchanged his son for the baby girl newly born there. Then, after entering the house very silently and exchanging the boy for the girl, he returned to the prison of Kamsa and silently put the girl on the lap of Devaki. He again clamped the shackles on himself so that Kamsa could not recognize that so many things had happened. Mother Yashoda understood that a child had been born to her, but because she was very tired from the labor of childbirth, she fell fast asleep. When she awoke, she could not remember whether she had given birth to a male or a female child. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport of the 3rd chapter of Krishna, the birth of Lord Krishna.
So we hear about in the prayers of Devaki, about the transcendental forms of the Lord. And we hear from the Lord about the history of his parents, how they appeared in 3 different births as Prishni and Sutapa, as Aditi and Kashyapa, and now as Devaki and Vasudeva. In the first incarnation, ping, 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 ping. Little feedback is there now. Hare Krishna. Yeah. So he appeared as Prishni Garbha, then he appeared as Vamandev, and now he's appeared as Krishna. The parents had undergone severe tapasya, but the Lord didn't give them liberation. That would have spoiled the whole program. Instead, he gave them the blessing to be his parents in these 3 births. Someone has to be his parents means the Lord, Prabhupada said, keeps pace with the way the material world works. He doesn't really need parents, but to keep pace, he appears as the son of someone. And he did so in these births. Then the Lord says, now you'll attain liberation. You'll go back to Godhead. And because his parents are fearful of what Kamsa might do, he orders that he be brought to Gokula and switched with the baby girl just born of Yashoda. This answers, by the way, the question asked yesterday about when Yogamaya appeared. Prabhupada says exactly at the same time. And so they appeared simultaneously. We hear the pastime of Vasudeva taking the child across the Jamuna, protected by Anantashesh, and then his switching the 2 children and coming back and clamping the shackles back on so that Kamsa wouldn't know what had happened. Okay, any comments or questions? Yes. Hare Krishna.
Maharaj, we see wonderful prayers of Mother Devaki, and we can estimate that her age she was quite young, because at that time the girls were very young and when they got married. So still she seems to be very well versed with the Krishna Tattva whole philosophy. So this thing we can attribute to the quality of education that was provided at that time even
No.
to girls, or just from the heart Krishna is.
Well, there was no education. The girls weren't sent to the Gurukul to be instructed in Vedic knowledge. Not at all. But Tadami Bhuti Yogam Tam. And we hear that they'd done austerities for 12,000 years. After 12,000 years of austerities, you're going to be pretty smart. Plus, in 2 previous births, she'd been the mother of the personality of Godhead and rendered devotional service. So there was no difficulty. She was fully well-versed in spite of not having Vedic education. And still we find that she wasn't called Devaki Prabhu. Yes.
Also, like in this regard, that Yogamaya was born at that time there and Krishna. So I have seen, like I heard many devotees quoting the commentaries of various acharyas. They say that original Krishna was also born at that time to Yashoda.
Yeah.
So Maharaj, how to reconcile all this different information available? How we can adjust to that by
Yes.
different acharyas? By different acharyas, different information is available.
Different information is available, so we accept their versions. Something may be told in one way, and then for those who are more in on things, something may be told another way. Summary, and then getting deeper into things. And we're not worried that there are apparent contradictions are there. Yes.
We hear about Prishnigarbha in this pastime, but is there any place in the Bhagavatam or any other Puranas that describe the pastimes of Prishnigarbha?
I haven't heard anything. Anyone know anything about Prishnigarbha, his pastimes? Let me just think for a second. No. There may be something somewhere in Puranas, but I haven't seen anything. Sorry. Something else. Thank you, sir. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Where are you? Oh.
Sorry. I was wondering, Devaki and Vasudeva are also eternal positions of Krishna. So it seems strange that they have to do all this austerity to get the positions that's actually theirs. And then we have Mother Yashoda who doesn't do that.
Yeah, there are, of course, the question that this is the eternal mother and father, and yet they undergo great austerities. On the other hand, Yashoda doesn't undergo any austerities. So for one thing is that Yashoda's position is higher than Vasudeva and Devaki. Another is, and this is discussed by the Acharyas, that Vasudeva and Devaki are eternally the mother and father of Krishna, but they Now it's the Vasu known as Sutapa. So how does the Vasu become the eternal parent of Krishna? By performing austerities. So this is the pastime, and someplace, I think you can, those who've read can help me out, that the eternally existing forms of Devaki and Vasudeva enter into the Vasu who's practicing this tapasya, and in this way the pastime is performed, and then the Vasu who performs the pastimes enters into the forms of the form of Sutapa, and she enters into the eternal form of of Vasudeva, and she enters into the eternal form of Devaki. Do I have it right? Yeah, I do. Okay. So this sort of incarnated exchange program sometimes goes on in the pastimes of Krishna. Someone undergoes austerities, but they're infused with a plenary portion of their prototype appearance, and then everything's merged back in. This is the high technology of individual servants of Krishna expanding themselves for Krishna's pastimes. Yes.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. From the prayers of Vasudeva and Devaki, it doesn't seem that there's any sense of parenthood on their behalf towards Krishna. There's a little indication from Devaki that, and also from Vasudeva, that they seem to be afraid from his well-being, but it also seems that Krishna dictates what he wants from them. He tells them, "Take me to Gokul." But with Mother Yasoda, it seems like that he's subservient to her wishes.
We don't see much parental relationship here. And yet we do more with Yashoda. So there are two things. One is that Vasudeva and Devaki are very much in the parental relationship, but things are held in abeyance or overshadowed. Overshadowed, I don't know if it's the right word. Maybe overtaken by the appearance of the Lord in this majestic Vishnu form with Shankha Chakra, Gada, Padma, and all of the signs of Vishnu. So they know he's the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but then that covering is removed. And what about Kamsa? And they're afraid. And then as Vasudeva is taking Krishna to the other side, he's thinking that I have to save my son. And there, later in Krishna's pastimes, we find that Vasudeva and Devaki are very much in the mood of being the parents of Krishna. And Vasudeva wants to perform get his son educated and so on. So it's there, but in the pastime, that's the focus of our present attention. It's subdued by this awesome form of Vishnu. Another thing is that the love of Yashoda and Nanda is considered higher. So they're more intensely absorbed in the mood of parental love. They're the ideal of parental love. Vasudeva and Devaki are also situated in exalted parental love, but Yashoda and Nanda Maharaj still more exalted. Therefore, later in the pastimes, Krishna, Vasudeva admits to Nanda Maharaj that you and Yashoda are the real parents of Krishna and Balaram. Is that okay? Something else? Yes.
It seems pretty dramatic, the prayer.
Pretty
dramatic. The prayers, and Vishnu comes, and then the Yamuna is in storm. But then in between, there's a little bit of, and all the guards went to sleep, and all the chains, they were off. So it seems like that's a little anticlimax there.
Anticlimactic? That's dramatic.
It's also dramatic?
Of course.
It feels like he's cheating a little bit.
You could write it another way, that they all, attack or something. You can write your own drama. But in this drama, they're all the appointed guards to be attentive, to make sure that nothing happens. And they all fall asleep. They all fall asleep. Everything goes on without their knowing anything. That's pretty good drama. If you'd been locked in a room somewhere by terrorists or something like that, and then something happened and all the guards, they passed out or something, and then you make your escape. That's good drama. What's wrong with that? It's not that because they were asleep, that's dull. It's dramatic. They all fell asleep.
Yeah, it feels like Krishna arranged everything, that it's difficult for him to come and to find his way. But then at that moment, he clips his fingers and it's easy to get out.
Yeah, it's... I don't see a problem there.
Not a problem. Yeah, observation. And
you find this all the time in adventure novels and something, and so on. That something happens, and then the hero is able to escape because somebody left the keys in the car, or because this happened, or that So that's the nature of drama. Something has to happen so that the hero can make it. He could have done, he could have written 5 alternative ways, but this is how Krishna chose to stage the drama.
And I was also wondering why Devaki wants Krishna to come in a baby form, because actually Kamsa was expecting a baby, and a baby is also much more vulnerable than Lord Vishnu himself.
Yeah, I've thought of that too sometimes. But it appears, first of all, that really Kamsa was expecting Vishnu. He'd been informed by Narada that Vishnu was going to come as the son of Devaki, 8th son. So if Kamsa sees Vishnu, then right away, it's, as you said, well, it's obvious. Here he is, the person that I've been worried about all along. So that's there. But you're right that she says, please become a child so that he won't know that you've appeared. And he won't know that Vishnu's appeared. You'll appear like a child. So what can we say? We could say that she didn't think it through. A child is obviously, as you say, vulnerable. But we do see that Krishna handles it. That at least Krishna knows, if I stay here as a child, then what will happen? So you take me across. that she knows that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, that it's all his forms are all transcendental, that he's beyond the modes of material nature. But she doesn't put together that if you appear as a child, then you're more vulnerable. In one sense, she's asking the Lord to do what he already wants to do. His determination is to appear as a child and to reciprocate with them and with Nanda Yashoda. So really, she's asking him to do what he already intends. Yes.
Hare Krishna, I'm wondering whether the pastimes are always unfolding in the same way, like Chitralika mentioned that guards will fall asleep, or sometimes in some other universe, there's some slight change, like guards will disappear or something like that, you know.
Whether the action is modified when Krishna appears in different universes or different millennia. And we find that it is. The basic outline stays the same. But there are differences in the details. Krishna sometimes plays the role a little differently, modifies the script a little bit. And therefore, often when we hear pastimes told two different ways, the acharyas adjust the apparent incongruity by attributing the differences to different millennia or different universes. So yes, it is modified sometimes. In Brihad Bhagavatamrita, you'll come across instances of that in description of the Krishna's pastimes with Kaliya, especially. Yes, Hare Krishna. You have to hold it close and switch it on.
This might be a silly question, but going off of what you said, I'm curious, if Krishna has so many unlimited forms and varieties, why would he want to keep the script the same throughout millennia after millennia, not change them and make all the pastimes different? I don't know. That was a thought that came to me.
Why doesn't he reinvent his pastimes entirely in every appearance? Why does he do them the same way?
Not that it's bad, just I'm wondering.
Why does he do that? Well, it appears we're all creatures of habit. There was a related question asked of Srila B.R. Sridhar Maharaj, that we see that in the spiritual world, every day it's the same thing. The cowherd boys wake up, Krishna blows his bugle, they go out and herd the cows, they play around and have different games and sports, knock off a couple of demons along the way, and then come back home. So, from one point of view, it might seem boring, for eternity. Every day we're going to go out and herd the cows. And Srila Sridhar Maharaj replied, it's just like every day you take your breakfast and every day you find it tasty. So Krishna's path materially, we get bored, we want things different. But on the spiritual platform, even when something's repeated, it's increasingly blissful. Just like if I can, I guess I can do this, just like kirtan, we're chanting the same words again and again. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. And some kirtaniyas will chant the same tune again and again and again for half an hour. But they don't find it boring, and the devotees chanting don't find it boring because it has spiritual potency. And sometimes less experienced kirtaniyas think that, every 2 minutes we have to change the way we're doing the Mangalarti, because otherwise everyone will get bored. Which is not to say tunes can't be changed, but especially, it's to say that I hate it. At Mangalarti, when we were talking about this at lunch, it's just when you sort of get what the tune is, someone changes it. So anyway, we can go on chanting the same 16 words for years and years and years. And we don't think, I chanted that yesterday. Same mantra. Yes, it gets better and better. That's the nature of spiritual sounds, spiritual forms, spiritual qualities, spiritual pastimes. Even though it's the same, it just gets better and better.
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj. I had a question. So Vasudeva and Devaki did these austerities for 3 lifetimes to have Krishna. But as soon as he was born, he was given to Yashoda Mai. And Yashoda Mai had that parental love, so she could reprimand Krishna as a mother would. Is it possibly Devaki couldn't have done that because she was aware Krishna was the Supreme Personality of Godhead?
Let's see, Sutapa and Prishni performed austerities so that they could have the Lord 3 times as their child. But about Yashoda, let's get it. She didn't perform austerities, but her, what's the exact question?
The question was that Mother Yashoda didn't see Krishna as a Supreme Personality of Godhead, or she wouldn't been able to shower him with love and reprimand as a mother would. Is it that Devaki was aware that Krishna was a Supreme? Because
both things are there. Devaki also becomes covered by Yogamaya so that she treats the Lord like an ordinary child, both here in these birth pastimes and later when Krishna returns to Mathura to rescue them from, after he kills Kamsa. So sometimes Devaki is aware, sometimes not aware. Sometimes Nanda and Yashoda are briefly aware that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. We find in the instructions by the sages at Naimisharanya. Is it Naimisharanya? No, Kurukshetra, right? Where is this? Let me think for a second. Where they go for the solar eclipse? It's Kurukshetra. They go for and Nanda Maharaj hears directly from the sages that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and he understands it. But still, he snaps right back to Krishna's my son. So, with both sets of parents, this is there. But we find that the intensity of love in Nanda Yashoda is still greater than that of Devaki and Vasudeva. Also, Prabhupada said that the Sutapa and Prishni performed austerities to have a son like Krishna. And Krishna said, well, where are you going to find a son like me? I'll become your son. But Yashoda and Nanda Maharaj are eternally situated in love for Krishna. Anything else about this? Yes. Mm.
You had mentioned that Krishna keeps pace with the material world by having a father and a mother, but we do see some incarnations where he doesn't, like Lord Nrsingadev, of course, and Varaha, and these are all non-human incarnations. But then there's even some human or human-like incarnations, such as Dhanvantari appears from the Milk Ocean.
From the ocean.
So there are instances where Krishna does appear without following the rules and regulations.
Swaraj. He's independent. He doesn't have to. But for this incarnation as Krishna, and some similar incarnations, Ramchandra, and he appears as with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also, Sachi Devi, Jagannath Mishra. Yeah. Not that he has to, but he chooses to. And then sometimes, as you said, chooses not to. Or he can do as he likes. By the way, that's we were talking about Krishna book and how it was put together. And I forget, there was some particular about the book and the content. And Prabhupada said, summary study means I can do as I like. And so he did, including famously, my dear Lord, as you say in Bhagavad Gita, writing the verses into the text.
So regarding this accepting of the father and the mother in teachings of Lord Chaitanya, different types of avatars are described, Leela avatars, Purusha avatars, and so on. So is there some connection or designation to the types that always accept a father and a mother and those that...
well, the Purusha avatars certainly don't. The Guna avatars don't. Purusha, the Manvantara avatars, we don't hear much about. Guna avatars, Purusha avatars, Yuga avatars, they do. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appears as Yuga avatars. Leela avatars may or may not. As you pointed out, Lord Nrsingadev doesn't. Lord Ramchandra does. I haven't seen any particular rule about it, except certain categories. They definitely don't. Okay.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Hare Krishna. Going back to the part of the Leela when, the soldiers in the prison, they fall asleep and, Vasudeva leaves the prison and goes towards Gokul. A verse from the Bhagavad Gita springs to mind, 269. What's night for the common people? It's, the time of awakening for the realized soul. Can this verse be applied to this situation?
Well, our acharyas do all sorts of things with verses. Sangat sanjayate kama, Prabhupada says, according to your association, your desires develop. That's not really the context of the verse. But we can do all sorts of things with verses. But generally, that's not the context is that those who are asleep to those who are asleep to self-realization are the opposite of those who are awake to self-realization. So when they're sleeping, we're awake. When we're sleeping, they're awake. That's the general context. Now, if you want to join the acharyas and playing games with the verses, then that's something else again. Prabhupada would sometimes do that. He would pick up some quotation from Shastra or some fragment of a verse and use it some creative way. Yes.
How is that Krishna always stretches the tolerance of his devotees in all pastimes, that we can see that they are going through the severe problems and tests? Is that they're just for the increasing love, and how we can approach that as a sadhakas?
Why does Krishna put his devotees through these troubles? What's the purpose of that? Yeah.
Usually we hear that Krishna wants to increase love.
He wants to increase their love.
Is there something else in how we as sadhakas
And
approach?
how we as sadhakas can deal with that?
Yeah.
One thing is that he wants to increase their love. And when there's trouble, then love becomes more pronounced. Another thing is that he wants to glorify his devotees. If Prabhupada had been sponsored by a multimillionaire family and he'd come over on a business class on a jet and been put up in a mansion and on the Upper East Side, or an expensive flat in the Upper East Side of New York and so on, the story wouldn't have been anything like what it was, coming over penniless and wandering around with no shelter. So, similarly, the Pandavas, by their wanderings in the forest and their enduring so many hardships, are glorified at the end. So it's like a button, in the button stores where they're selling buttons. Sometimes the button is sold against like a foil background. Have you seen that? They have like a bright, shiny background, and against that background, you see the button. So the foil glorifies the button. It makes the button stand out. So these hardships and troubles that the devotees go through glorify the devotee. They glorify the devotee. And as you said, they increase the love of the devotee. And it also creates an adventure. Krishna, that's one of the reasons Krishna comes, is to perform adventurous pastimes that will attract the conditioned souls. So, like marrying Rukmini, if he just, sort of strolled in, if he just got invited if Rukmini hadn't done his run his contrary program of trying to marry her to Shishupal, and the whole thing, if everybody said, okay, Rukmini, you're to marry Krishna. Krishna got invited. They held a nice wedding ceremony. They went back home. Not much to talk about. But with this, all the attention of Rukmini writing a letter with the Brahmin, sending it to the Brahmin, and Krishna traveling practically overnight to Vidarbha, and then snatching her at very last minute from all the contending kings, and then fighting them all off and absconding with Rukmini. Now there's something that we can read and be attracted by. So that's one of Krishna's deliberate programs. he does, he makes it interesting. He makes it, and also that increases her love, Rukmini's love. That my husband's not just a, selected from the crowd. And later, when the queens are meeting with with Draupadi, they're telling the stories how Krishna married each of them, and each time it's generally this, he bridled these angry bulls. He shot this target that was completely covered. He did this, he did that. So in this way, the Krishna is glorified, and the love that the devotee feels for Krishna is also increased. Krishna did this. How many women can remember on their wedding day that, I was snatched last minute, and then Krishna fought off all these soldiers, and then that's quite so that increases the loving feeling, and increases the love of all the devotees when they hear these wonderful activities of Krishna. It's so inspiring. That's called uddipana. Increasing the love by stimulating love for Krishna. Is that okay? Something else? Okay, should we stop here? Have kirtan? Are you leading kirtan? Do you have a lot of people here all of a sudden? This is your last time? You're leaving for Mayapur tomorrow. Ooh, Devarshi's leaving for Mayapur tomorrow. Well, thank you for all the nice mridanga playing and nice questions also. It's very nice. We wish you a good trip to Mayapur. There's no difference between Mayapur and Vrindavan, but still we'll miss you.
Hare Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Hare Rama,